Alright, I'm going to make yogurt by the new method that I've discovered. Very, very awesome method. I'm just putting everything into my pressure canner here. I've got 6 of my 750 milliliter jars. I've got my funnel. It's a stainless funnel. It can go in the pressure canner. I've got my whisk for whisking up my yogurt starter. I've got a spoon, which I'll need. I've got all the lids, the snap lids and the rings here. And I'm going to put some water in here and bring this up to 15 psi just to sterilize everything and shut it off again. If you don't have a pressure canner, you can use a pressure cooker. If you don't have that, you can use a big pot and boil it all for 15 minutes or so, 15-20 minutes. If you're using the big pot, then everything has to be covered in water. If you're using a pressure canner, you don't have to cover it in water. You only have to bring the water maybe halfway up, because in a pressure canner it's the pressure that sterilizes, not the actual water. But with a pot, it's the water that sterilizes. So just note that. I'm going to start filling this up with water now. Alright, want to get some water in the jars. Alright, more water, filling up some of the jars part of the way, and around the jars. Alright, that's plenty of water. Now we're just going to turn the burner on and put the lid on the canner and let it come up to 15 psi. When it's up to 15 psi, I'm just going to turn it right back off again and let it come down to temperature. Alright, and we got to heat the milk. You can do it on the top of the stove on very low heat. 1 or 2 I would recommend. I've tried 3.5, 4 before and it scorched a little bit. So I would go 1 or 2. Or what I'm going to do today is both. I'm going to put some on the stove top and some in the microwave. Put that whole thing, it's 1.33 liters. Put that in the microwave for about 10 minutes on high. See where we get with that. And measure the temperature and see if we need any more. Okay, there's 1 bag of milk. I stick it in there. And I have an intuition that 12 minutes should be close to right for what we want. Okay, 12 minutes, and we have 190. I was right on the button. Look at that. Right on the button. Exactamundo, as the Fawns would say. So I got 2 bags of milk in this 5-liter pot here. And I've got it, you can see, on about 1.5. I put the lid on. It'll take quite a long time to come up to temperature at 1.5, but I'm just going up to put the boys to bed right now, so I don't want it too high because I'm not going to be monitoring it for the next little while. Low and slow. This guy is getting up to pressure slowly but surely. As soon as it gets to 15 psi, I shut it off and let it come down to temperature. Okay, this is up to temperature now, 189, 190, that's fine. Now we are going to cool it down really quickly. But in the meantime, I'm going to have a look at what's going on over in my pressure canner. Okay, it's really hot in there, the steam's just flying out. The one thing I didn't pressure can is this thing, the jar picker. The reason is I'm not sure how that rubber will hold up to the heat. So what I do is stick it in here afterwards and just leave it for a few minutes and it should be fine. It only touches the outside of the jars anyway. Everything in here is looking great. Now I've got to take this and actually I've got to take that this thing out of here because I'm going to need it to stir this while it's in the sink. I actually already had the sink filled up enough, but this sink has a slow leak and it started leaking out, so I'm just filling it back up with cold water, and then I'm going to monitor the temperature while I stir it. It will not cool very fast unless you are stirring it. There's a scientific reason for that. I can't remember. It's something about a protective layer of cold building up on the outside, then the water doesn't move, and a protective layer of hot on the inside in the same fashion. So as long as you're stirring, it will cool an awful lot faster than when you aren't stirring. So I'm just letting that fill up a little bit more, and then I'm going to take the lid off and monitor the temperature while I stir and get it down to 55 Celsius. Okay, it's 55. I put it back on there. Now I need one of these jars. Empty it out. And I need this guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 cup of the hot milk in here. Then I'm going to open a new jar of my existing yogurt, a brand new jar, open it up, and put a cup of yogurt in. And I'm going to stir the two all together. So I can only do that with 2 hands, so I got to turn the camera off. And I'm going to need my sterilized spoon for that. We'll put the spoon in there so we can stir. And we will... Actually, I should break the seal on the top of that yogurt first, just to get it pouring. Oh my goodness, that is so firm. That is so awesome, that yogurt. That's been in there for a couple of weeks now in the fridge. It is just awesome. Turn it around here so I can see the cup measure on the side of the jar. Now this is called tempering your yogurt. Getting the cold yogurt used to the temperature of the hot milk. We temper that small amount of yogurt. It raises the temperature of the culture a little bit, gets it used to being a little bit warmer after being in the cold fridge, so it's less of a shock to the organisms in there, the bacteria, than if you were just putting the yogurt starter directly into the hot milk. Now I'm going to use this guy and give it a proper whisking, which is best done with 2 hands, because this whisk is a 2-handed whisk that goes between the palms of your hands, and you flip your palms back and forth, so I can't really show it while I'm filming. No, I can't. So the hot milk should be about 50 centigrade now. We took it out at 55, but we knew that it would cool down a bit in the meantime. Should be about 50. It's 48 there. That's fine. Now we mixed in the tempered solution. We mix it all in very nicely, and then we fill our jars. Okay, I poured in the jar of tempered starter, and I just give it a good mix now. That's basically all there is to it. And now I take my funnel and start filling my jars and putting the lids on them as soon as they're full. Alright, so basically I just want to fill the jars up. This pot pours very well, if I can get it to. And that's basically all I do. I fill one up, and then I get the lid. As soon as that one is full, I get the lid out of here and put the lid right on so that no nasties get in there, and then I set it aside and do the next one. So what we actually do when they're full is we put them into this large pot here, and we got to put some water in this pot, and the water just came up to the boil now. You want the water in the pot to be about 50 degrees centigrade as well. And then the whole thing is going in the oven for a few hours overnight, basically, in a preheated oven to keep it at the proper temperature. So I filled 2 of them up now. They are going in here, and I'll get the rest of them in there in a few minutes. Alright, just a bit of cold water going in there. Not too much, because I can't undo it, or I can, but it's harder. Let's see what we get now. We are now right in our target range, just shy of 50. So what happens now is the lid goes on, and that whole thing goes in the oven basically overnight, or for 3 to 4 hours minimum, but I just throw it in there overnight.